Just stop. Stop. Cease firing. Let the night go silent and hear the voice of God until the night becomes holy without the sound of war. And we study war. No more. No more.
Bishop William Barber of the Poor People's Campaign and Repairers of the Breach, giving a sermon on Christmas Eve. Bishop Barber recently joined with over 1,000 faith leaders in the United States calling for a Christmas truce in Ukraine. Other signatories include the Reverend Jesse Jackson of Rainbow Push, Professor Cornel West of Union Theological Seminary, Rabbi Arthur Waskow of the Jewish Renewal Movement, Reverend Jim Wallace of the Georgetown Center on Faith and Justice, Reverend Liz Theo Harris of the Cairo Center for Religion, Daypop An, the Plum Village Buddhist community. Bishop William Barber spoke at the Greenleaf Christian Church in Goldsboro, North Carolina, where he's been pastor for 30 years. He just announced he's retiring as the church's pastor to become the founding director of the new Center for Public Theology and Public Policy at Yale Divinity School. That does it for our show. To see the whole speech, go to democracynow.org.
So, I'm going to play you that speech. So here we are. We're in a very interesting moment, just like every other moment in our life. We have a choice to make. You are the decider. You can decide to study war no more. Here I am in my, beautiful garden of paradise. 18 years of living in nature's breast. I was never bothered by anyone. There was nobody here. Just Mr. Squirrel and Mr. Bunny and my girlfriend, Lady Butterfly. And they've all flown the coop because here, unlike other places, there is a place for them to escape to, just over there. There's areas of steeper mountains, no roads, and it's just over there. So they went over there. So like the black cougar, I haven't seen the black cougar in a year, right? I haven't seen Barry and Benny, the two big bears, right? And Mildred, she got shot by one of the yokels, and I'm calling all the folks who come from California and Texas and Florida and New Jersey and, places of that, the Queen City, Maryland, D.C., you name it. They're all escapees, right? They were, as the folk who like to blame others call the illegal aliens. Well, the illegal aliens I'm talking about are not Terrians. They're not from here. They're not from this dimension. They're not from this time. And yet they're pulling our string, right? Because they subsist, they live, they suck all of the energy of our suffering. So they're the ones who promote war. They're the ones who, that's where, the A-bombers came from, So I'm going to go into a meditative state here, and you're going to listen to this. And this is what Amy Goodman said of Democracy Now! I jumped in on this and recorded this maybe 5 minutes into the speech. So, but listen while I meditate, while I translate what he is saying into shamanic energy and put it over the World Wide Web. Here we go. Take a big breath. Visualize the prana, and here we go. Oops. Hit the wrong button. I want to play. So this is the issue. All of my electronics have. I wanted to do something, it won't do it. Playing. What's playing? I don't see anything playing.
Ceasefire today. First, because the human cost, especially for the Ukrainian civilians, is too high. This is not a contest of wheels on a battlefield. It is a struggle for control that takes place every day in the places where people live and work and worship and go to school. The war is in the streets and in the homes. Too many elders, too many children,
Around the
too many
world, not just
babies and
Ukraine.
men and women are dying as consequences of this war. But Ukrainians are not the only people being hurt by this war. The economic impact is dire, especially on the poor, rich people in
What
the
are they,
lower
Jamie?
south.
Tell us.
The people who are facing more hunger and more cold as a result of this war. Truth is, our whole planet is at risk.
Empathy is the number one. Unconditional love is number two.
Being mined and shipped around the globe. And whenever countries spend more on war, there's always less money available for things that actually keep us safer. We need a ceasefire in every war being fought around the world. The fragile ceasefire in Yemen is barely holding. We need ceasefires in Sudan and South Sudan and Somalia, in Mali, in Myanmar, in Iraq and beyond. Many wars are being waged in the name of fighting against terrorism or against drug cartels or against domestic opponents. And in many of these wars, we can see the impact in complicated ways. Where U.S.
Everything this guy just said is exactly what Jamie said me and Baba said.
Despite our own government's humanitarian
some thumbs up for this.
great in many ways, we cannot ignore
Stop the study of war.
historians, political scientists, the media reports, and even some military officials who have shown how some of our actions in history and some of our actions in the present have imposed economic and security policies around the world that have resulted in desperate poverty, environmental catastrophe, refugee crisis, authoritarian rulers, and more. We have a moral obligation to stop supporting wars and call for a work for ceasefire.
Around the world.
Way back,
And every day and every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger.
a general by the name of William Sherman said to those anxious to engage in war, I have been where you are now, and I know just how you feel. It's entirely natural that there should be in the breast of every one of you a hope and a desire that someday you can use the skills you have acquired here, but suppress it. He said to these young troops, you don't know the horrible aspects of war.
Exactly what
I've
Jamie
been
said.
through 2 wars, and I know. I've seen cities and homes in ashes. I've seen thousands of men lying on the ground, their dead faces looking up in the skies. And I tell you, war is hell. And it was America's general president, Dwight Eisenhower, who said when he was leaving office, the conjunction of an immense military establishment of a large arms industry is new in the American experience. Yet we must not fail to comprehend its great implications in the councils of government. We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought by the military industrial complex. And at first he said the congressional military industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. And the other night, even in the midst of his request for more weapons, President Zelensky did slip in a prophetic word, or may I say the Spirit slipped in a prophetic word, if we were paying attention. He said, being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace. This must be deeply wrestled with in this complex and contrary world.
And that's what Jamie's talking about. In war, there are things you can do that you can't do in peace. But those things that you can do in war are horrific. I used to be a newspaper photojournalist, right? And I had my own style. I mean, I just stumbled at like everything I do, I just stumbled into it. Now, right now I'm out in the middle of nowhere. And, I died in 2014, took 7 years to get, somewhat well. And so 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, right? So here it is, 23. So it's been 8 years, and John threw me out for for the physical, when I was living there last time, was in 2017. I went back to visit him twice between 2017 and now. Oh, please come and stay with me. Please, 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 please. And I drove all the way up there, went in, and he kicked me out within 15, 20 minutes, right? Well, I had other things to do, and I did them before I went to see him. And so the bottom line is, here I am out in the middle of the woods for the last 3 years. And I don't bump, the only thing I bumped into was, Mr. Squirrel, Mr. Bunny, and my girlfriend, Madam Butterfly. And that was great. It was good to be in that tranquil, blissful state. And then, 21, all of the illegal aliens came into this area, and they bought up everything. And now they're like chewing on where I live, and it's hard for them to do, right? So it's not going. So instead of, there's 20 spots where, the illegal aliens could be in my front door, right? But really, there are only 3, right? And they're not so bad. I don't see them each day. Maybe I interact with their essence a few minutes here, a few minutes there. And yes, it can be annoying because I watch them to really see, like, the fat illegal alien, Colonel Kentucky Fried Chicken. Um, you know, um, he can't walk anywhere. I mean, when I go visit him, I walk that mile up the hill and knock on his door because it's good for me. He's been here now almost 2 years. He'll be here 2 years in May. And I never seen him walk anywhere. If he could ride his motorcycle or his three-wheeler or his, Sedona, up and down the stairs of his house, he would, but he can't. So, but he, just to come visit me, he rides his three-wheeler or his car, or he cannot walk. And he is almost he's not quite as big as I was at my total gorgoness, but he's only 32 or 30, somewhere between 32 and 36. And he looks like shit. It looks like he's going to keel over. Now, I am dead, but love's co-creation keeps me alive within every second. Love's co-creation rejuvenates me, right? Because I'm here to serve love, not myself, right? Not my ego. A guy is just 24/7 trying to, figure out how he can get over on anyone. And the only person he's getting over is himself, right? And he does everything, but he's got it all kind of scoped out. I mean, one of the reasons, he brought these tweakers up here to be his slaves, and they were, and then he left to go to Florida and didn't take them with him, and left them in the woods to fend for them because he kicked them out of his compound. Right? They were living in little pop-ups. They had all these people stuffed in, what a little pop-up. It's like 8 feet by 8 feet, and it pops up. It's a trailer that you go camping. It's like got one bed in and a chair. He had like 4 or 5 people in there, and they were white Floridian tweakers, right? And he treated them. He didn't pay them really. Gave them a sandwich every now and then, and he left them in the woods when it got really cold, when it went to 60 degrees below zero. If I hadn't said, okay, get in the the hippie wagon, they would be dead, right? And I let them have electricity. I didn't have to do that, and helped them get firewood so they could be warm. They were actually, in a lot of ways, warmer than I was, right? Because but I was under an electric blanket all the time, so it was nice and toasty. But when it got down to 60 degrees below the freezing temperature of water, Fahrenheit, right? 30 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. Basically, it was unbelievable. Inside the man cave, it was 18 degrees minus Celsius, right? So that's the world we live in. I mean, that same kind of inhumane reptile attitude that is causing all the wars around the world is what's going on here, right? What's going on in your neighborhood? And those folks who ran away from California and Florida and Texas and New Jersey and Seattle and all those other really nice places that were turned into crap by ego's total loserness of greed. I believe in the golden rule. I have the gold, I rule. Right now, the tweakers were annoying. Right, they were doing all these things that annoyed me. But what am I going to do? Get out. Get going. Be the old guy on his lawn. Get off my lawn. No, I just kind of went and talked to them and said, "So, how you doing? What's going?" And I would give them a reading. I show them how to read, breathe. I did a lot of things. I fed them because they had no food. For 2 weeks, I had no food. So I ate half of normally of the stuff I would have eaten. I gave to them. Right. So rich people go, I can't buy a meal. Oh, I can't do that. I have no money. Modern artist. Hey there, buddy. Let's see if the phone works. I was playing a speech about don't study war no more. Had a really good show this morning with Fish. Right? Let's see. It's ringing. Let's see if he picks up.
Please leave your message for 64646.
More 6464666. That's our boy's phone number, 666. Right. Hey, come on, stop it.
We need ceasefires everywhere. According to Brown University's Watson Institute, nearly 1 million people have died in the post-9/11 wars. 38 million people have been displaced by war, forced to flee their homes and communities to try to make a life somewhere else. The Poor People's Campaign found that the U.S. alone has spent $21 trillion on war. money we haven't invested in affordable housing, green infrastructure, healthcare, education, labor rights, and living wages. The cost of war is too high. We need ceasefires everywhere. Militarism is central to all of the interconnected injustices that we fight against. Military spending diverts funds away from desperately needed social programs, from health care to child care, from jobs to sustainable energy, from elder care to education and more. Even now, we are passing a spending package that does not include living wages. For the more than 55 million poor and low-wage workers in this country, it does not include health care for the more than 87 million people without health care or underinsured. And we now know that over 300,000 people have died so far from COVID because of the lack of health care, not because of the germ or the virus. And thousands more have died because of how poor and unprotected they were, not because of the power of the virus. And we are passing a budget that includes more money for the war economy than ever in history. We're doing it without passing protections for voting rights, without restoring the Voting Rights Act that Lyndon Baines Johnson said when it was won was the greatest victory in this country, even of all of our military victories. And because we're doing this, it leaves us with an impoverished democracy. We need a ceasefire. This year, military budget will top $858 billion, a sum greater than the entire national budgets of 174 countries around the world, including such wealthy nations as Turkey, the Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, and Switzerland. Just a small percentage of that money could provide living wages for every American, could provide health care for every American, could provide child care. And in a country so rich that we waste hundreds of billions of dollars, we still have tens of millions of children living in poverty, going to sleep hungry. It's a moral crime. And Christmas, the prophecy and the prophetic truths of Christmas demand
Well, if we do what? We'd be Sweden.
ceasefires. Say this does not have to be. So we need a ceasefire for the people of
But why
Ukraine.
is it? If it doesn't have to be, why is it?
We need a ceasefire for the poor and hurting people around the world. Wherever there's war and violence, whether that
What is
war
the
and
good
violence is because of
Absolutely
greed
nothing.
or lust for power
Greed,
or racism
Rocky,
or anti-Semitism or Islamophobia or homophobia. We need a ceasefire. And finally, we need a ceasefire in Ukraine right now because we are facing the most serious threat of nuclear escalation in 60 years. Russia and the United States together hold 90% of all the nuclear weapons in the world. Each side has enough nuclear weapons and nuclear firepower to destroy the whole world several times over. And that's incredibly dangerous for flawed human beings, prone to lead the God we say we love, to have that kind of power. Not only because of Russia's reckless nuclear threats, and not only because of Washington's trillion-dollar investment in strengthening and modernizing its nuclear arsenal, we need a ceasefire. Because I don't believe either Washington or Moscow is planning a deliberate nuclear attack. But that doesn't mean it can't happen. Unlike other war zones where the U.S. and Russian forces have faced each other, there is no U.S.-Russian military-to-military hotline to avoid accidental escalation. in Syria, but they don't have it in Ukraine. An accidental move on either side could escalate to a nuclear exchange. It's not likely, but when we're talking about potential nuclear war, any threat that isn't zero is simply too
Not
large.
acceptable.
More than half a century ago, even before his speech in 1967, Dr. King said that the trajectory of modern war persuaded him that war could no longer be imagined as a negative good, a necessary evil to prevent some greater harm. The potential, he said, destructiveness of modern weapons totally rules out the possibility of war ever again achieving a negative good. He said, if we assume that mankind has a right to survive, then we must find an alternative to war and destruction. Because we stand in life at midnight. We're always on the threshold of a new dawn. But our own sinfulness and actions could keep us from getting there. We need a ceasefire in order to make an honest assessment of where we are. As Gandhi once said, an eye for
an eye.
And maybe we can see.
Eye for an eye leaves both people's mind.
Count the cost. If we could just stop closing our eyes and turning our eyes away and look at the bodies and the blood and the brokenness and assess the destruction. Maybe for our sake.
As I was saying, back in the day when I stumbled into being a photojournalist, I first shot in a city called High Point, North Carolina. Right? My good friend from prep school, we were the two extraordinarily rich kids there. We were there, put there by powerful people who thought it would do us good, and those extraordinarily rich people. I went to school with the wealth of the planet. Guys who own U.S. Steel, Seagram's, GE, you name it. You know, they started it, they owned it, they were the families behind it. UB Hobart or the Hobart restaurant equipment, Alex Orb, U.S. Steel, Eddie Merrill, Ricky Lynch, the Shah of Iran's son, all the above, right? So at that period, we graduated high school. We went off and did our thing. He and I kind of did this. We both got into arty schools, and we were already doing what they were trying to teach us to do. We were already successful at what we were doing, right? So, and the teachers gave us a hard time because, why are you even here? You're not one of us. You were actually doing the job I wish I had, and I'll never have because I'm stupid and ugly, and I'm self-loathing, and I can't do it. And pretty much every politician, every president, every general is pretty much that character. He's not the guy who was giving that speech talking about we need a ceasefire. No, we gotta kill everything. I'm so scared of myself. I'll kill it all. Kill it. Lie, cheat, steal, kill. That's the golden rule right there, right? So High Point was a very interesting town. Big city, was the furniture capital of the friggin' world. They had the Mart. That was one reason I got this job to photos, because I was a scenic lighting designer. So the guy who was at the Mart actually knew me. He knew George and George. He knew all the people I worked for, right? And so he told when my buddy, who was just a photographer at High Point Enterprise, his boss died and they had nobody to take his job. And Mark was really an amazing photographer. And they said, so why don't you take why don't you take Larry's job? And do you have anybody you can suggest to be a photographer? And he knew I was like right in the neighbors. Yeah, I got this guy right here. So that's how I got that job. I didn't fill out any application. I didn't have to go online. I didn't have to, fill out 40 pages of soul wrenching, exposure. No, they said, okay, you're hired. That guy knows about you. This guy is your buddy. You'll do a good job. Okay. And I did. Right. And within the first 4 months, I did everything they wanted me to do and more. I ingratiated myself with everybody and more. I kind of did things that I didn't know I shouldn't do, like live in a black neighborhood on top of the most popular restaurant in town, And when I came down in a Chanel bathrobe and bunny slippers, and the mayor and the chief of police and everybody else looked up and saw me coming down the stairs, and they were like shaking their heads. And I kind of sat with them to have breakfast, and they said, "Al, are you living here?" I said, "Of course I'm living. I live here. That's why everything works now. I live here. That's why I live here." She gave me the. Have you ever been upstairs? And this one guy, older kind of person, I think he was a judge, said, when I was a boy, I once went up there. That was a speakeasy. That was a brothel. That was a gambling hall. That was drinking. That was fun. And that's where I lived. Nobody else up there. Gigantic space up there because they didn't need a speakeasy anymore. It's already there in Kmart's. So anyway, I got that job, and the first thing I really shot was a murder, right? Because the cops didn't have their, CSI. So they had the newspaper guys take their photos for them, and I showed up, and there was Sarge. He was the guy who ran the whole freaking police department, not the sheriff, not the chief. Anyway, so I showed up about 7. The sun was just starting to go down, and I was there in shorts and flip flops. It was supposed to be my day off, and my buddy, my boss, he was tripping his brains. I can't do this. You have to go. You're gonna have to learn how to do it. Go over to this address. Ask for the sarge. He'll show you what to do. So I did, and everybody was gone. The sarge was waiting for me. I showed up, and he goes, "You're the new guy." I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Go in my car over there. Open up the trunk." And he threw me the keys and get the waiters. And the only waiters I knew were guys, who brought you your meal, right? Listen, there were waiters in the trunk. Open it up, and there was all kinds of stuff. And there was a box, big box, and it said waiters. So I take them, and I open them up, and there were these, like boots that were pants that, covered you up to here, right? And they were white, you know, and said, "Put these on." I put them on. It was go in, take pictures. So I go in, and I start. It's like these 4 brothers. It's this little teeny, box house, and there's the main room, and there's a hallway going that way, and the kitchen's over there. But there's the main room, fireplace here, front door, and there's the main room, and there's a couch over here, and there's 4 guys in pieces, and they went after each other with shotguns in this little room, not outside in the backyard, but in this little room where they couldn't hide. And so somebody's arm was over there, and somebody's head was over there, and leg over there, and their guts over here. And I mean, they blew each other apart, right? So I'm going, whoa. And this is like something straight out of Ouija, the guy who worked for the New York Post during the 50s, taking pictures of murders and stuff like that, right? So I was like hanging from the sides of the walls and, doing it very arty. And Sarge is like at the front door, kind of going like this. He goes, kid, no, 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 no. And here's this box, right? In it are these little metal things. They're yellow. They got numbers on them. There's like 1 to 100, and each group has like 6. So each one of those bodies you take, and they all have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and put 1A here, and you do it at cardinal things, the different points. So when you take the pictures, you have these numbers as a reference point to see. That's how we do forensic work. So he taught me how to do it. I mean, one lesson, bingo, I understood forensics, right? So I do this, and he's watching me do it, and he goes, no, a little bit more of that. That's perfect. Click, right? Okay, click. And so I did that. Took me about an hour and a half to do exactly what he wanted. I picked up all the numbers, and he goes, I said, what do we do with the body parts? He goes, oh, the ME will show up sooner or later. but it was like bizarre because it was blood everywhere. And I got there maybe 2 hours after they blew each other up. And so Rigger didn't set in because they were in parts, but the blood was everywhere. It was slicker than snot and smelled extremely weird. But, well, part of it was that their guts had spilled out all over the place, so it was like pretty smelly. Anyway, so he comes, okay, kid, put your equipment over here, come in the back of the house, and he hosed me off, right? Right, hosed me off. And then he says, just take that off. Okay, here's your flip flops. Okay, put your stuff in your car. And, and so he put, his waders back in the box, put that in the trunk. He says, walks over to me, and it's about, I don't know, 1 a.m. And he goes, do you like pie? And I go, sure. He goes, well, let's go. So we go over the Pink Teacup. It's the best restaurant in High Point, North Carolina, in the black neighborhood. Amazing. The mom, great grandma, Mallow was in there as the chief, and she ran it like, a military operation. And we go in there, and there's like 20 different kinds of pies and about 15 different types of homemade ice cream. They were famous for everything. So he goes, we're going to start out with, apple pie, warm, melt the sharp cheese on top. What kind of ice cream you like? He goes, they're the flavors. I go, mint cherry. That sounds pretty good. I'll have the mint cherry. And so he's telling me all about, being here, and Mark, that he's known Mark forever. He knows everybody. This Sarge knows everybody. Like I said, he was the guy who ran everything. Yeah, the mayor thought he ran it. The rich guy thought he owned it. The guy who was part of the media, who owned High Point Enterprise and the TV station and the radio station, the colonel, he thought he owned it. So, but the Sarge ran it, right? So, and we had one heck of a philosophic thing, and we went through 5 different types of pie, and then it got to be around 6 in the morning. The sun, maybe 5 in the morning. Sun really hadn't come up. So we're like on our 15th cup of coffee, and he goes, let's go out in the back. And so we go out in the back, and it's a really nice like beer garden, like really. And he goes, not everyone gets to eat back here, So he goes, you ever smoke this stuff? And he's got a blunt. I mean, this is, North Carolina, the home of tobacco, and he's got some really serious tobacco. But inside it is what he's got that's really serious. Some, lamb's breath. He goes, you ever heard of what lamb's breath is? And I did. I spent a good 6 months in Jamaica living with Rastas. So, yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, whoa. Oh, Sarge, this is good shit, man. Ooh, and so I pull it out, and I start hallucinating. And he goes, I thought you'd like it. And he said, this is what High Point is. It's nothing like any other place. We all get along. Now, I've been watching you. You've been here now 2 weeks. I've been watching you, how you really kind of fit in, but don't. And we need somebody like you. There's only one of you, And if there were more than one of you, we'd have to kill you. But there's only one of you, and what you are engendering yourself, because you are so honest, so real, so that you have no hidden agendas. You got nothing. You're nothing like, I mean, you're kind of like Mark was, but now he's so full of himself, it's ridiculous, and he's heading for cruising. But you're just here to serve and be good. You're like kind of like what I do, but I'm so old, I'm a little jaded. But I don't care about my little jadedness. I actually serve love's co-creation. That's the first time I really heard it that way, right? He says I was in World War II and Korea, and that's why they call me Sarge, because I came out of Master Sergeant, right? I quit just before Vietnam. I mean, we were in Vietnam after we finished with the Japs. We were in Vietnam, we were in Korea, we were in all these places in Asia that are going to turn into war. China, all of that. We were there giving weapons to everybody. And he was like the guy who was, Milo Monumental. He was in charge of getting whatever you needed, right? He was part of the supply chain, right? Anyway, so we're talking, and it gets to this place where The stars, you can still see the stars, but the sun's coming up way over there in the east, and it's the stars are still kind of over in the northwest, and it hits. He goes, look up, and the tops of the trees, all the tulip poplar, were gold and shining, and the stars were behind them. And further back, the sky was darker, and you could see the morning star. You could see it all. It was like, just hold it for a minute. Look at that. Isn't that really amazing? Yeah. Yeah. It's really amazing, Sarge. So at that, a beautiful friendship had started. So, and I basically everybody, when I went to take pictures of whatever I was taking pictures of, I never did it like Ouija again, right? And basically, I took up photos of the individual people. And I didn't shoot, if it bleeds, it leads. I shot the images of people who experienced what happened. So the guy could tell the story by the pictures of the people who saw what happened, right? What the effect it had on the people who are still alive. Those are pictures I took, not the crash car or any of that, but the people, who knew those people, all of that, right? And so I started doing that. Was my style of news photography. And so, and I would take pictures of those folks and write down their names and addresses, and I would send them pictures, the best picture of them, their family, their kids, or whatever, that caught the energy of what it is, but not but it showed more of them than the catastrophe, right? And so I got to really, within a month, I took a lot of pictures of a lot of people, and I went out. I would stroll around, and people knew me. Oh, take my picture, because I knew I would have my little notebook and get their names and addresses and send them those pictures. And that went like way. And my boss said, I had no idea what the heck you were doing when you were taking pictures of all these people and having them printed and sent to them. The way it has changed how people perceive our newspaper is mind-boggling. Just that little thing you did has gotten us more revenue, more advertising, more just because what you did. Were you thinking? Nope, just wanted to, make people appreciate what we did here. And he started to cry. So that's how I roll. I have no idea what I'm doing or what I'm saying or how I'm doing it. I just serve love's co-creation. And I've had people like Sarge as my example through my whole freaking life. So here I am in my 70s, and all my great examples are dead. Now they're still alive in my heart. The unmentionable one, JT, Johnny Toilet. Johnny Boy is so upset whenever you even mention John as a toilet that he just loses his mind. Right? Just goes ballistic. I don't know what someone said to him to set that little Roman candle up his colon. And I know Tammy. Tammy is a martyred artist. She's quite the buxom woman. She's what do they call it? Fully filled. Anyway, I digress. And I do that a lot, right? I do it shamanically to make you go bub, 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 bub. And there's only one person watching and one thumbs up, right? So I'll finish off this story. That job that I was at for almost 6 months. I mean, I fit right in. They were going to give me that job for fucking life, right? And one of the things I shot was a hanging, a state execution in Greensboro, North Carolina. And they hung a businessman, a black man, who was doing too well. Jim Crow was king, and it still existed. Even though the Voting Act and all that crap. This is 1970 and 68, and it was still in existence. And the black kind of went along with it because it isolated their economics from the whites. All the black people kept their money, and they were doing pretty well. And in High Point, that was a unionized city, so the black man was making the same as the white man doing the same job, right? They had 3 shifts down to the factory, and when they were coming out, they'd say hi to the guys coming in, and the black man would be parked on this side of that shift parking lot, and the white guys on the white side, both same. They get in the same Buick and drive out together, get to the end where the main road is, and the black guy would go to the black side of town, left, right. And they both lived in the same kind of nice. That's when I realized that race was just a smokescreen to class, because here these guys were making the same amount, living the same life, just isolated, and the black guys were actually living better than the whites. So the whites were trying to keep up with the Joneses and trying to be, rich white people, which they were spending every nickel they had. Black guys, not so much. They saved their money. And the black schools, they got money from the state to have a black school. And whites, even though they're supposed to be integrated, the blacks didn't want it because they spent extra. They were more intent on have quality than being there with white people. And their football team was way better than the whites. The basketball guys were much better than the whites, and those guys all got scholarships to go to college. Where the white schools didn't, not so good, right? So I'm observing all of this, right? So I got sent off to Greensboro, and High Point was like in its own little bubble. It was this unbelievable cosmopolitan city surrounded by redneck land of cotton, tobacco, mostly tobacco. Cotton was not too much there, but everything was tobacco. And so I went and shot this, and what it was, this black guy, he was too smart, too good. His business was so good that white people were coming into the black community to shop in his stores. The guy who owned Sears, he was losing market value to this black guy because he was offering a better product, a better this, a better everything. And he had everything that you'd want in one store. He had a counter, he had a pharmacy, he had, a Sears, but black oriented, but he had white customer stuff too, and everybody could come in and rub shoulders up again. It was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like, you know. So the white businessman one night just came and got him, dragged him off, beat the crap out of him to unconsciousness, brought him over to the sheriff. They threw him in jail. They said he raped a white woman. They brought him the next day to court. Found, got he's still unconscious. He had no, he had this one lawyer that just didn't say anything except what he had to make it legal, and they got a jury of 12 white men, all business guys, and that's when I was sent to take pictures of this. And I went into, and by that time everybody in High Point, the chief, the sergeant, everybody, chief had given me, like a county state press card. But my boss wanted me to get a national press card. He said, we're going to start going to other places, and the county card won't do. You need a national. I said, fine, great, get me one. Right? I can go anywhere I want, right? What one of these things? And he goes, yep. So I basically went off to Greensboro, and my sheriff sent gave me a letter of this guy is all right. He works for me. Let him do whatever the heck he wants. See you later, Bob, at the next convention of the KKK. And so, I went to and he called both my boss, who's the richest guy, one of the richest guys in North Carolina, the mayor and the chief of police and the sergeant all called that sheriff of that county and said, hey, we're sending this newspaper guy over. He's got our press cast. Just he's going to come a day or two before the Mardi Gras, and then he'll be gone. So just give him the kind of support that you would give us, right? He's an extension of us, and so I had no idea that. All I had this envelope, and I gave it to the sheriff. He said, "Yeah, they all called me up. Okay, this makes it official. Good to meet you." And he goes, "You got a place to stay?" And I go, "Well, not really." And he goes, "Come here." So we go, out his own private little back alley door, not alley, but a hallway that he could go anywhere in the police or the courthouse and no one could see him, right? And he had little things he could go like this and look in, right? So we go in and then we go down some stairs and it's where the jail is. And so you come out and there's this hallway and the jail is over here. And then there's a door here. Open up the door and this is really nice apartment. You can stay here for the next 3 days. It's yours. And there's a door out in the back. You can park your car there because you really can't park your car downtown. But you got press pass license plate, but park your car back there. That way you can just drive in, park right there, come through that door, bingo into the apartment, and it'll be good, right? And I said, boy, Chief, thanks. This is great. Says, you had lunch yet? And so he takes me out to lunch to introduce me to his boys and other people. And it's at like this white restaurant only for not just white people, but white rich people in power, guys who own businesses, the judges, the lawyers, all right. And this guy's, he's so and so's boy. He's a doc from a High Point Enterprise. Da, 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 da. They say that he's really interesting. That's how I got it. He's really interesting, right? So anyway, so the guy goes, "You don't have to go anyplace else to eat. It's the best place, and your money isn't good here. You're on my tab." I said, "Chief, you're just too good." Because what I really like, I like it if you come home to dinner for me and take pictures of my family. So I said that you're pretty amazing doing that. I said, portraits, that's my thing. So I did, right? And I go, you guys, who devices? You go take it down to Bill at the pharmacy. Just give him the roll. He'll do it, right? So I did. So I took a ton of pictures of everybody in the police department that afternoon before going anywhere. And I took it down to Bill and I said, so Bill, this is, hi, the chief sent me. Oh yeah, you're a photographer guy. You do all those things with people. Yeah, portraits. I said, so here's 6 rolls. He said, okay, I can do this today and I can print them up. I said, what I need is, after you develop the negatives and you print everything, make contact sheets of everything. You can make as many prints as you want, and you can make dupes of these negatives if you want. Can you do? Oh yeah, we could do that. I said, I want my original negatives in sleeves, and I want contact prints of those. Oh, no problem. We can do that. So he does, right? So that first day, I spent taking pictures of everybody in the police department and in the municipality, and I was like everyone's son or nephew or wannabe boyfriend, So no one was scared or thought, "Ooh, who is this guy?" So the next day, bright and early, I get up and the phone rings. There's a phone there. I say yes, and the chief goes, "Hey, I'm gonna go have breakfast." So we go back to that place, and I said, "So, chief, you ever have go to High Point to the Pink Teacup?" He goes, "Oh yeah, that place." I said, "You must have a Pink Teacup in this town." And he goes, "Well, we do, but we're not as open-minded as you folks in High Point are." I said, "What do you do? It's great food." I said, Their food isn't as great." He goes, "Well, it is. It is. It's just darky food." I said, "You sneak off there for barbecue, don't you?" He goes, "Well, don't tell anybody, but yes." So, it was like that. So within the first, 24 hours, I was one of them, right? And so I said, "You know what? When's?" He goes, "So what's going on?" So he goes, we're walking back. I said, "So what's going on with the court?" You know, he goes, "Well, they've arraigned him and they've charged him and they they have picked they're starting it off." And I said, "So where is him?" You know, and he goes, "Oh, you want to see him?" And I said, "Yeah." And so we go in the back of the police department where my car's parked. We go through my door into the apartment. We come out into the hallway and we go down that hallway to where the cells are, right? And there's Otis and those kind of guys. But then there's another clank kind of jail door. We go into another hallway down, 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 where it's about 6 cells, right? And he goes, "This is the Green Mile." And I said, "Okay." I didn't understand that until I saw that movie. So years and years and years later, and so there's this, there's nobody there. There's no policeman there. There's no nothing, but there's a guy in his underpants, bloody like you can't believe, unconscious. He goes, "There's the guilty one." I said, "The guilty one? Yeah, he's the rapist." I mean, but he hasn't had. He's guilty, and he said it in like, "You better believe it." I said, "Okay, the guilty one. Can I talk to him?" He goes, "Well, if he was awake, yeah, but he's not awake. Is he ever going to be awake? I don't know. Shouldn't he be awake if he gets brought to court?" I said, "Doesn't he have to be awake when he gets charged and he has to plead?" Because his lawyer did that. And he's like getting a little, "Aren't you one of us?" kind of in his voice. And I said, "Okay, whatever." So I said, I'm going to it's a beautiful day. I'm going to go take pictures of your town and your people and just talk to him. And is that okay? So sure it is, but I'd really love for you to do that. Can you go back to the, photography guy, get him to do that same thing that you did for us in the pictures of our families? I said, "No problem." So I do. I kind of cruise around and take pictures, and all the pictures of the town I took, and all the pictures of the white people I took, and the stores, and I have my little notepad as a reporter. I took, people would talk to me, and I would kind of scribble it down, get their point of view, and my insights on what was going on, and then I kind of looked around. It was all white, and I saw this building that had like police tape around it, and it was kind of had a fire on it. And so I kind of walked down that street. And once I got down, I took a look at it and I saw the police thing, "Don't enter." And it said what it was: crime scene of rape, blah, blah, blah. Right? So I looked in the window. I said, "Oh, this is that guy's department store. There's the counter, there's the pharmacy, there's this, there's that." And the back part has been burned, right? And I kind of go back there, and the tape isn't there, and the little letter saying, crime scene wasn't there. But the back part of the store was burnt, right? And so I just kind of went up on the loading dock. It was concrete, kind of stepped over the burnty stuff, went in, and this was their warehouse, and it was cleaned out, completely gone. And the fire was just where that door was, and a bunch of the wall, but there's only the woody parts, and because the other part was all concrete, right? So that didn't burn, and it didn't spread, and it looked like a fire that had been, you can tell a fire that's a natural fire that kind of starts out little and embers and this and that, and it gets bigger and bigger because there's fuel and air. Then you can see a fire that someone had used an accelerant on, because it's like the top part burns and it doesn't catch the rest of it. And that's kind of what that fire looked like. So it looked like, the guy was taken away. Someone came and cleaned out the store in a very, not like people going in a riot and running away with this, that, and the other, but, meticulously took everything out and put it in a truck and trucked it away. I looked down at the road, and it was, crushed run and mud. And so you could see big tire tracks. So, okay. So I take pictures of all that, and I come around into the store, and I kind of come out the road that goes into where that loading dock is, right? Which is on not the continuation of Main Street in front of that store, but in the back. And I go out that, and there's a black neighborhood, and there's all black people. And they're all kind of walking around and doing stuff, and they kind of turn around and see me. I got my little Nikon around my neck, and they're like, like, and I don't take a picture, right? I basically take my camera apart and I, stick it into this jacket that had big pockets, and I became cameraless, right? And I took off my ID badge and I stuck it, so it's just me, right? So I start kind of walking, slowly, looking at everybody, and they kind of look at me and kind of turn and walk away, right? No one comes towards me. This one guy does. And he goes, "So I was watching you." right? You've been here now almost 2 days, you know. So you're the guy from High Point. You're the photographer. You're that interesting guy. I said, yeah. I hear you're from New York. I hear that you grew up in Harlem. Good. So you know some black people, eh? I don't really say anything. He goes, so why don't we take a walk? And so we do. And we walk up to where the black, um, where they bury people, right? And very few headstones with anything written on them. And I go, so why aren't there any headstones? He goes, well, this is a black cemetery, but it's run by the police department. So whatever goes in here, they put there. So, and I said, so why did these guys get stones? Well, they bury all black people here, whether they were, murdered by the police or not. So these people were, semi-respected by everybody. They were, preachers and business folk who knew their place within the white mentality of Greensboro, and so they got a stone, right? And so this, just take a look. How many little wooden markers do you see? I said, more than I can count. And he goes, how many stones can you see? About 10. He goes, 1,500 people who are got a little piece of wood from. There's a lot more buried here who don't even have that. We have people have been buried up in that hill, right? I'm just going. And he goes, this is reality, buddy. This is what's going on in America. And I kind of knew this, but this was when I was like. So then he walked me down that back. We went up that hill into the forest and looked where you could see where there were lumps are, and here's where new lumps were. And I said, these people were put here, without any kind of anything. They were just murdered and stuck here, right? Just kind of, okay, right? And so we walked back, and I said, so is it all black people here? And he goes, you're a smart guy. He goes, no. Anybody who doesn't fit in here and doesn't realize they should get the heck out of town. And if they stick too long, they end up here. White, black, green, doesn't matter what color. It's your attitude and whether you're supporting the political economic structure. So this guy is a smart guy. He's no street thug. He's no, right? I said, so what are you? He goes, well, I went to theology school and I came out a Methodist preacher, and from the Methodist school. I didn't grow up here. And I came from Boston and I knew what racism was, but I also went to really good schools. And I thought coming down here, and I thought after the Voting Rights Act, I could, and basically I met a beautiful woman and we got married. And so I have, I tried to be at Martin Luther King, but, after he got shot, I realized, earlier before that, once I had my first little baby girl, I was just going to be a preacher for the community that I could help, right? And that's a big enough job. I don't need to be Martin Luther King, right? I can just be my best, and I service everybody, black, white, green, it doesn't matter. But I fit in, and I've always looked for a place to fit in, and I don't need to go any further. And he looked at me, you're a guy who's going to go lots of different places, and you're going to fit in anywhere, but you won't belong. And I said, okay. So he took me around, and I talked to some people. So he took me to the sister of the real go-getter who's in jail in his underpants, right? And she goes, he couldn't have raped a woman. I said, why couldn't he have raped a white woman? It's because he's gay. That's why he's not married, right? He put all his energy into that business, and that's why he's so good at it. I mean, he's just got this sensibility about stuff and products and placement and all of that, and he's just I'm like, okay. So I'm getting the picture of this. He couldn't have raped the woman, right? So I go back and I get myself ready for the courtroom, right? I go into the court, I go talk to the judge, I go talk to the clerk, I go talk to a whole bunch of people in the courthouse scene, not the police per se, because I've already talked to them, and got their whole thing. And the judge said, "Can you have dinner with me? And I'd love to talk to you about things, and love to have you take pictures of my family." So, sure, judge, no problem. So went to dinner with him. I mean, at first dinner with the sheriff and the chief, and then the judge. So anyway, and then he explains. I heard you were in a black neighborhood. I mean, everywhere I went, there was no way I could, because I heard you went to that guy's place. I said, "Yep." I says, "So you must have found out that the guy who we're charging with rape um, was a gay man, and that he probably didn't rape this woman." I said, "Yeah, I kind of heard that." I said, "Anyone else know that?" He goes, "Not really. So I wish you wouldn't spread it around." Going, "Trust me, sure, judge, not a problem." He goes, "You are a good boy." So, you know, I'm fine. So we talk and we talk and we talk, take pictures of, and it's, I left their dinner table at about 7:30. It was still somewhat sun, the sun hadn't gone down. I'd walked over to um, the uh, you know, um, guy who did the photos and said, "Here, these are pictures of the judge." "Oh yeah, I heard you were at judges." Every place I went. "Oh yeah, I heard you were." So I was getting a picture where no matter what I did, everyone knew what I was doing. There was no like that, no. So I didn't act down low whatsoever. So about 9 o'clock, I went to, I met, I was coming out of the pharmacy, and this policeman who I got to know relatively well said, "Hey, I'm going to go have a drink with the boys. You want to, shoot, you shoot pool?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I shoot pool." So we went and shot pool, and I drank, and I just listened to their stories, right? Unless they asked me a question, I was not chatty Cathy, right? I was just listening, right? And I would interject a interesting little parcel of interestingness that they "Oh," and so we broke up. This one guy goes, "Well, I got to go home. You need a ride back to the house," meaning the jail. I said, "Sure." So he drove me back. "See you tomorrow." "Okay. So you want to go have breakfast?" I said, "Sure. Come and get me." So about 6 in the morning, knock, 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 and the breakfast we had in the jail, they have a kitchen that they make food for everyone who's there, and they have a pretty good breakfast. As far as eggs and bacon and sausage and biscuits and gravy go, and potatoes. I mean, a pretty good breakfast. I mean, as good as anybody else, better than Waffle House. Anyway, so I breakfast with the guys and all that, and so I go back, through the cafeteria into where they're rolling the food out to the inmates. I mean, they had about 12 guys in there, and so you know I said to the person doing this, "Can I take some pictures here in the jail?" He said, "Sure. You walk with me. You can take the pictures, and I'll, you know, all you got to do is, see what you want to take a picture of and say, 'How about this?' That's all you got to say is, 'How about this?' And if I say, 'Yeah,' you take a picture. If it's not appropriate, I'll say, 'Uh-uh.'" He said, "Okay, sounds good to me." So we went up and did that for about, I don't know, 20 minutes, half hour. And I talked to a few guys in there. And most of the people in jail were like Otis. They were white guys who got drunk or did something stupid. I mean, there was nobody real. I mean, they were being, $16 fine and 2 days in jail. So that was kind of what it was. So I talked to all those guys. I didn't take any of their pictures. But I was going back to my room, and the guy had, we got down to that place where we went and I had to go through this hallway where the guys going to, in serious trouble were, and he went back to the kitchen. So there's nobody there, no TV cameras, and the guy in the underpants, he was sitting on his bed, and he was wrapped up in a blanket, right? And I said, "So, Mister So and So, you're awake?" And he kind of looks up at me. "Who are you?" He's got two big black eyes. He can barely see out of his eyes. And I said, I'm Al. I'm from the High Point Enterprise, and I'm here to photograph everything that's going on with you." really? I said, yep. And how good of a story have you got? I said, I think I got the whole picture. I know you're gay. And so as I said that, he goes, then you know everything. I said, yep. He goes, you know, they're going to kill me. I said, I pretty much have a good, yes. And he goes, so what are you going to do with this story? I said, well, I'm going to put it together as, clearly without prejudice and bring it to my editor. And it will tell the story of just us in America. And he goes, well, if you can really get that story put out, then my death will be worthwhile. I mean, this is kind of heavy shit, you know? And I basically said, I'm going to do my best. And I did, right? And how much time we got left on the battery up here? Let's finish up with this.
Can our children's sake, a ceasefire could help us realize that the world needs an anti-war coalition if we're going to be the world is possible. We can put our weapons down for just one night, and maybe we could put them down for one tomorrow. And if we could put them down for one tomorrow, maybe we could put them down for 1 week. And if we could put them down for 1 week, maybe we could put them down for 1 month. And if we could put them down for 1 month, maybe we could put them down for 1 year and study war no more.
Study war no more.
And maybe studying war no more doesn't just have to be in the after and eternal life. We have power to stop the madness. We can stop it today and can stop it tomorrow. And so we want to welcome the Prince of Peace. We can't give up hope. We've got to dare to commemorate, remember, and praise God, even in the midst of all of the warring madness. Now is the time for Christmas truth. Now is the time to try. Let the word go out. It happened 108 years ago. And they are no more human and no stronger than we are. All it requires is listening to the Spirit and just stop. Just stop. Stop. Cease firing. Let the night go silent and hear the voice of God until the night becomes holy without the sound of war. And we study war no more. No more.
War no more.
Bishop William Barber of the Poor People's Campaign and Repairers of the Breach, giving a sermon on Christmas Eve. Bishop Barber recently joined with over 1,000 faith leaders in the United States calling for a Christmas truce in Ukraine. Other signatories include the Reverend Jesse Jackson of Rainbow Push, Professor Cornel West of Union Theological Seminary, Rabbi Arthur Waskow of the Jewish Renewal Movement, Reverend Jim Wallace of the Georgetown Center on Faith and Justice, Reverend Liz Theo Harris of the Cairo Center for Religion, Depop An, the Plum Village Buddhist community. Bishop William Barber spoke at the Greenleaf Christian Church in Goldsboro, North Carolina, where he's been pastor for 30 years. He just announced he's retiring as the church's pastor to become the founding director of the new Center for Public Theology and Public Policy at Yale Divinity School. That does it for our show. To see the whole speech, go to democracynow.org. I'm Amy.
So, I'm going to play you that speech.
I just did. ceasefire today. So all those back, 1968 in Greensboro, North Carolina. What that Reverend just said is what that man who then got hung for doing nothing except being amazing, right? And being his best and serving his community, not just the black community, but the white community, right? So that's exactly where we were in 1968 is today. But the advent of social media and other entities, we are more connected than we ever have been. And yet we are more susceptible to propaganda. So we have the opportunity as the individual to serve love's co-creation, to be, we don't need a media platform. We can speak from our heart. Now, I use this YouTube channel as my platform into the World Wide Web. Now, there's only one person watching, 2 likes, 2 thumbs up. No one's given me anything on the old PayPal for a number of weeks. And that's the dudewake42 at Gmail, right? Want to get a hold of me by the internet, dudewake42 at Gmail, right? And right here, right now, view every day in every way you take the piece of the earth and make it stronger through your love of love's co-creation, right? You be that lucky bastard. You be that best you can be. You can't be perfect, but you can be your best. And you can serve not yourself, not your ego, not your party, not your, silo, but love's co-creation. In the we in me, if you see the we in me, okay? So, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll speak to you again, maybe tomorrow.